This incident happened 2 weeks ago, and I still have not recovered. Some mornings I wake up and, for a split second, everything feels normal. The ceiling above my bed, the faint hum of traffic outside, my phone lying where I left it. Then my mind catches up. Then I remember their faces and the way the apartment looked afterward, and the feeling returns. That cold, sinking certainty that something followed me out of that building. My name is Alex. I'm 22 years old. At the time, I was a first-year architecture student. I wasn't popular. Not disliked exactly, just invisible. I had classmates. I had group chats, but I didn't have the kind of people who would notice if I disappeared for a week. And I hate admitting this, but I got used to it. You tell yourself you prefer solitude. You tell yourself you're independent. But the truth is, it hurts. It hurts in a quiet way. A dull pressure you stop noticing until someone finally speaks to you like you matter. That's what happened when I met Daniel and Emily. We met in a studio class. One of those first-year classes where everyone's exhausted and pretending they aren't. Where the room smells like coffee, cardboard, and printer ink. Daniel walked in late, dropped his bag on the table like he owned the place, and said, "Okay, who here actually knows what they're doing?" No one answered, so he laughed. "Great, we're all doomed." People laughed with him, not because the joke was amazing, because Daniel had that kind of confidence that made you want to be part of the moment. Emily was sitting a few seats away. Her notebook was neat. Straight lines, careful notes, small sketches in the margins. Daniel sat next to me, looked at my half-finished model, and said, "Not bad. You've got a brain. I can tell." I didn't know how to respond, so I shrugged. He didn't care. He just kept talking like we'd known each other for years. Later, when we were assigned a group project, I ended up with Daniel, and somehow Emily ended up with us too. That should have been awkward. 3 strangers, 2 different personalities, 1 deadline. But it wasn't. Daniel kept things moving. Emily kept things correct. And I did the parts no one wanted to do. The measurements, the late night revisions, the "this might collapse if we don't fix it" moments. And it worked. By the end of the project, Daniel slapped me on the shoulder and said, "See? You're not boring. You just needed better people." Emily smiled like she agreed. For the first time in a long time, I felt included. A few weeks later, Daniel introduced us to Sarah. She was Emily's friend, interior design student, bright energy, sharp sarcasm, the kind of person who could roast you and make you laugh at the same time. The first time I met her, she looked at Daniel's messy sketchbook and said, "Your perspective lines are a crime." Daniel gasped dramatically. "Don't say that. My art has feelings." Sarah pointed at me. "Does his art have feelings too?" I hesitated. Emily nudged me lightly. So I said, "Mine are still developing trauma." Sarah laughed. Daniel laughed. Emily laughed. Quietly, but genuinely. And something in my chest loosened. Like maybe this could be a real friend group. Like maybe I wasn't just passing through people's lives anymore. That's why, when Daniel asked about the weekend, I didn't hesitate. It was right after our final exam, the kind where you walk out feeling drained and half delirious. Daniel caught up to me in the hallway. "Hey, Alex," he said. "What are you doing this weekend?" "I don't know," I replied. "Probably visiting my parents." "Why?" Daniel grinned. "I just rented my own place. My first apartment. Thought we could celebrate. Invite Emily, Sarah, maybe just hang out." I laughed. "You know I'm always in." And I meant it. I wanted a normal night, a movie, friends. If I'd known how it would end, I would have lied. I would have said I was busy. I would have stayed home and let the loneliness be safer than whatever waited in that apartment. The next evening, I bought snacks and drinks and headed over. Daniel lived in a 10-story apartment building. Not old, not new. The kind built in the early 2000s. Clean exterior, bland hallways, fluorescent lights that always felt slightly too bright. The lobby smelled like cheap detergent. The elevator mirrors were scratched. Somewhere above us, someone's TV was too loud. Normal things. I remember thinking, as I rode the elevator up, this is just a regular building. People live here. Families, kids, neighbors. Nothing bad happens in places like this. That's what I thought. When I reached Daniel's floor, I heard laughter behind the door. I knocked. Daniel opened it almost immediately. Perfect timing, he said. We were about to start without you. Not a chance, I replied. I plan on being the first one to pass out tonight. Inside, Emily greeted me with a smile. Sarah waved from the couch. She had a soda in one hand and a slice of pizza in the other.
Alex,
She said, chewing. Your timing is suspiciously responsible. Daniel pointed at me. Don't let him fool you. He's secretly the wildest one. I'm literally holding chips, I said. That's the extent of my chaos. They laughed. Everything felt normal. We ate pizza. We toasted to surviving the semester. We talked about professors, deadlines, plans for the summer. At some point, Daniel went on a long rant about how architecture should be considered an extreme sport. Emily rolled her eyes. Sarah mocked him. I just listened and smiled. It was one of those nights that feels like it'll become a memory you tell later. Like, remember when we celebrated Daniel's first apartment? I wish that had been the memory. Someone suggested a movie. We ended up watching The Conjuring. I'm not even sure why. Maybe because horror movies feel safer when you're with friends. Maybe because you want to laugh at fear, like it proves you're in control. We turned off the lights. Daniel made a big show of pulling the curtains. Sarah threw a pillow at him. Emily checked the time and said, If I have nightmares, I'm blaming all of you. The movie played. We jumped at predictable moments. We joked. We argued about whether any of it could be real. 3 hours later, the movie ended, the credits rolled, and the room felt quieter. The alcohol buzz faded, the jokes slowed down. That post-movie silence settled in, the kind where you suddenly notice shadows in corners you ignored before. Daniel disappeared into his bedroom. At first, I didn't think anything of it. People go to the bathroom, people grab something, people check their phone. But then, about a minute later, he shouted, Guys, you need to see this. We looked at each other. Emily's eyebrows lifted. Sarah sighed. I stood up anyway. Daniel came back holding something flat and wooden. A board, old-looking. Letters and symbols, a little scratched, a little dusty. Emily froze. Wait, is that a Ouija board? Daniel nodded, excited. Found it in the storage closet. Looks like it belonged to the previous tenant. Sarah laughed nervously. You're kidding, right? Emily frowned. Daniel, that stuff is fake. You know that. Daniel held it up like a trophy. Fake or not, it's fun. And it's creepy. And we literally just watched a horror movie. Emily stared at him. I don't like this. I should have backed her up. But I didn't. Because I wanted to be part of the group. Because I didn't want to be the boring one. Because I thought, like an idiot, that this was harmless. So I said, come on, it's just nostalgia. What else are we gonna do? They all looked at each other. Sarah chewed her lip. Emily hesitated. Daniel grinned like he'd already won. And slowly, they nodded. We moved to the kitchen table. Daniel turned off the overhead lights. Emily found candles in a drawer, cheap, half-melted ones that looked like they'd been there forever. Sarah joked that we were about to summon a ghost who owed Daniel rent. I laughed, but my stomach felt tight. Not fear, more like a warning I couldn't explain. At exactly 12 a.m., we sat around the table. The lights were off, candles flickered, shadows stretched along the walls and shifted every time someone moved. Daniel placed the board in the center. He looked at us like a game show host. Okay, he said. Who are we contacting? I don't know, Emily replied. This was your idea. Daniel shrugged. Then we contact whoever's listening. Sarah leaned closer. You're not going to do the thing where you fake it, right? Daniel put a hand on his chest. I swear on my future architectural masterpieces, I won't fake anything. Emily didn't smile. We placed our fingers on the planchette. The plastic was cool under my fingertips. Daniel flipped the board over. On the back were strange symbols, not just decorative like someone had written them intentionally. Daniel read them out loud. His tone changed halfway through, less joking, more careful. "O wandering soul," he said, "if you are here, give us a sign." Nothing happened. 5 minutes passed. 10. 20. The candle flame stayed steady. No cold gust, no whisper, no movement. Sarah exhaled. Okay, that was anticlimactic. Daniel frowned like the board had personally insulted him. Emily looked relieved. I stood up. All right, this was fun, but I think I stopped mid-sentence because everyone else was staring at the board. The planchette had moved. Not a lot, just enough. Slow, deliberate, toward the word yes. For a second, none of us breathed. Sarah whispered, "Daniel, stop." Daniel's hands lifted slightly. "I'm not pushing it." Emily's voice was small. "Who are you?" The planchette moved again, this time faster. A small circle, then a straight line, like something was learning how to use it. Then it started spelling, not full sentences, fragments. Watching, open, door. Daniel's eyes widened. "Oh my God," he breathed. "This is insane." Sarah shook her head. No, I don't like this." Emily swallowed hard. "Ask it what it wants." I didn't want to ask anything. I wanted to stand up and turn the lights on and laugh this off. But my voice didn't come. Daniel reached for his phone. "I need to record this." Sarah's hand shot out. "Don't." Daniel looked at her. "Sarah, this is proof." Emily whispered, "Daniel, please." He didn't listen. He lifted his phone, and then everything changed. On the screen behind us stood something impossible. A black shape, tall, thin. Its body looked like smoke pulled into the shape of a man, like shadow had learned how to stand upright. And its eyes? Red. Not glowing like a light, burning like a warning. Fixed on the camera. When it noticed the phone, it screamed. Not like a human, not like an animal, something worse, a sound that made my teeth hurt and my skin tighten. The candles went out instantly. The room turned ice cold. So cold it felt like my lungs seized. Daniel dropped his phone. Emily and Sarah ran for the front door. That was their mistake. Daniel was closest to the hallway. Something lifted him into the air. He didn't fly like a superhero. He jerked, like a puppet yanked by invisible strings. Daniel screamed once. Then he was gone. Not vanished, not disappeared. Gone as in thrown out of the balcony. Emily and Sarah were pulled upward. Their bodies snapped to the ceiling like magnets, then dropped. The sound they made when they hit the floor, it wasn't loud. It was worse. A heavy, final sound. A sound that told my brain immediately, they're not getting up. I stood frozen. I couldn't even scream. My body refused to move, like it didn't believe what it was seeing. Then the thing turned toward me, and I felt it, a pressure in the air, like a presence leaning in. It started moving, not walking, gliding, like smoke sliding across a surface. It was coming straight at me. Instinct took over. I grabbed Daniel's phone. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped it. And I pointed the camera at the creature. It stopped, frozen, like it hit a wall. And in that terrible pause, I understood it. It couldn't move if I was looking at it, or if the camera was looking at it. I didn't know why. I didn't have time to wonder. I just knew I had one rule, one chance. Slowly, never lowering the phone, I stepped backward toward the front door. The creature trembled. Its outline rippled, like it was trying to push forward and couldn't. The phone shook violently in my hands, not from me, from something tugging at it, trying to knock it away, trying to make me look away. I tightened my grip until my fingers ached. I backed through the doorway, kept the camera up. Then, with my other hand, I reached behind me and felt for the handle. I opened the door and ran. I don't remember the elevator. I don't remember thinking. I only remember the stairwell, the way the light flickered, and the sound of my own breath turning into a sobbing panic. I ran down 10 flights of stairs. I nearly fell twice. My phone screen stayed on the whole time, camera open, shaking as I moved. In the lobby, an older man looked up from his mail. He saw my face and stepped back like I was contagious. I shoved the front door open and sprinted into the night. The air outside felt warmer, but I couldn't stop shaking. I reached my car, my hands fumbled with the keys. I dropped them once, picked them up, unlocked the door, threw myself inside. I started the engine and drove. I didn't even look in my mirrors. I didn't want to see anything following me. When I got home, I didn't turn the lights off. I sat in the corner of my room, phone in my hands, camera still open, facing the door. I stayed like that all night. Every creak of the building made me flinch. Every distant sound made my pulse spike. At some point, my eyes burned from staring. I blinked too long once and panicked, thinking that was enough. That one blink would be the moment it moved. But nothing happened. Morning came, and with morning came the kind of exhaustion that feels like drowning. I must have fallen asleep sitting up, because when I opened my eyes, the sun was already high. My phone was still on, still recording nothing, and I felt hollow, like my mind had been scraped out and replaced with fear. Later that day, the news reports started. Tragedy in a local apartment. 3 young adults found deceased. Authorities suspected domestic incident. They said Daniel killed Emily and Sarah, then died himself. No witnesses, no evidence, no mention of anything unnatural, just a clean, human explanation. A story that fit neatly into the world people understood. I watched the report twice. Not because I didn't believe it, because I couldn't accept it. Daniel wasn't perfect, but he wasn't a murderer. Emily wasn't careless. Sarah wasn't reckless. They were my friends, and they were gone. The police came to my door that evening. 2 officers, neutral faces, professional voices. They asked me where I'd been, what I'd done, who I'd been with. I lied. I said I hadn't seen Daniel in weeks, that we were classmates, not close, that I was home all night studying. They watched me carefully, like they could smell fear. One of them asked, "Are you sure? We've been told there was a small gathering." I shrugged. I don't know anything about that. My mouth was dry, my heart pounded. Because if I told the truth, I wouldn't be the survivor. I'd be the suspect. And worse, if the thing heard me say it out loud, if it realized I remembered, if it realized I was still here, I didn't want to find out what it would do. So I stayed silent. The officers left. They weren't convinced, but they didn't have anything solid. When the door closed, I slid down the wall and shook until my hands cramped. A week later, There was a funeral. Closed caskets. Too many people. Too many sobs. Too many strangers staring at the ground. I stood in the back. I didn't speak. I couldn't. Daniel's mother cried like her body was breaking. Emily's father stared forward without blinking. Sarah's friends held each other and whispered prayers. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell them it wasn't Daniel. I wanted to warn them, but the words wouldn't come. Because the truth sounded like insanity. And insanity wouldn't bring anyone back. After the funeral, I stopped going to class. I stopped answering texts. I stopped leaving my apartment unless I had to. I kept Daniel's phone. I don't know why. Maybe because it was the only proof I had that I wasn't imagining this. Maybe because part of me believed the phone was a shield. Or maybe because the phone felt like a leash. A reminder that I was still connected to that night. Sometimes I watch the video he recorded. The last seconds before the scream. I never see the creature clearly in the footage. Just darkness. A suggestion of shape. A sudden shift in the candlelight. But I remember what I saw with my own eyes. And that memory is clearer than any video. Now, strange things happen. Small things. Quiet things, like the kind of horror that creeps into your day and makes you question yourself. Sometimes my phone turns on by itself. The screen lights up without me touching it. Sometimes the camera opens, facing me, as if something on the other side of the lens is checking that I'm still here. I've tried turning it off. I've tried removing the battery, except phones don't have removable batteries anymore. I've tried deleting apps, factory resets, nothing changes, and I'm scared to throw it away. Because what if that phone is the only thing keeping it back? What if the moment I let it go, it finds a different way to look at me? The worst part is at night, when the room is dark and there's nothing but silence. I'll be lying in bed, trying to breathe normally, trying to tell myself I'm safe. And then I'll hear it. A soft, distant sound, not footsteps, not a voice. Just pressure, like something standing on the other side of a door. Not knocking, not entering, waiting. I'm writing this now because I don't know how much time I have. If this finds you, if you're listening to my voice and wondering whether this is real, don't make my mistake. Never use a Ouija board. Never treat the unknown like entertainment. Never invite something you don't understand into your home. Because some doors come closer, and some things don't stop watching.